Jay, apparently tried Linux. Now, I just want to say this. All right? I have been talking about using Linux for gaming and stuff for a decade. Why is it that, it's turned from, oh, you're just a nerd, nobody's ever going to use Linux and all that, and you're just hating on me for using Linux. And now suddenly, you got a bunch of people that are like, oh, you're cool if you use Linux. This is like the same issue that I have with anime being cool now. I got bullied for that stuff, okay? I was the weird kid for liking anime growing up. I don't know. Look, I'm not a, proponent of bullying. Just saying, I feel like there should be an admittance fee of one swirly. Just one. I'm joking, okay, to be clear here. But anyway, video saying you can now game on Linux. I've been doing that for years! I've been gaming on Linux longer than I have been on TikTok. And I've been on TikTok for oh my God, I've been on TikTok for 5 years. Something just died inside of me. But anyway, I've been talking about gaming on Linux for years. I've been talking about how Linux is this great thing and that people should really give it a chance. And the argument was always, to me, oh, nobody's ever going to use Linux. It's never really going to get mainstream. Nobody's going to really like it. And then suddenly, the needle started shifting more and more as gaming got easier, where it wasn't as hard to do it. And then Valve actually saw the tunnel and was like, yes, we need to embrace this thing. And I've been gaming on Linux even before Valve was on Linux. I mean, Steam was on Linux. When we were playing Half-Life and everything, using Wine and all that stuff with the wrappers. And I've been, I played the Linux port of Steam when it was in beta. I've been using Steam since it was in beta. And then Valve, came out the Steam Deck and everyone's like, oh my God! This is amazing! And then, everyone's just slowly waking up to the reality of what I've been saying, that no longer are you the weird person because you want to use Linux. Now everyone is trying to get away from Microsoft because, to Kara's point, people are getting sick of Microsoft. I'm dreading the fact that this stream box over here that's running the streams is running Windows 10 Enterprise. I have to upgrade that to Windows 11 Enterprise because I'm running Elgato hardware. I got Stream Decks, 3 key lights, the prompter, and the capture cards, and an AverMedia one on top of it. And until I can, sit down and figure out how to get that all working properly on Linux to the same workflow, I just can't quite switch over. But this box is basically just a stream box, but I always needed a Windows box to do bare metal Windows testing anyway. But the computer that y'all are seeing me, do everything on, this guy's Linux. This guy's for Linux full time. This guy's Windows all the time. And this guy is quiet most of the time. After stream's done, this guy gets shut down. Why have VeraCrypt on launch? Because I use VeraCrypt a lot. Not a lot. But I like it a little bit more when I need to containerize some things that I like to just keep secure when I throw it on my NAS or stuff. It's just that habit I have. What version of Chrome is that? It's Chromium. That's what Chrome's based on. It's the fully open sourced, version. Can we delete Arch Linux then? But anyway. The bullying gave you memories. The bullying gave me trauma. The bullying built character, okay? Anyway. Yeah, it's Pop OS. My friends that were hesitant on Linux suddenly in my DMs asking about Linux. Even my coworkers that sees my laptop that has a huge Linux Mint sticker on the back have been asking me about it. People have been asking me because they see my logo. Because I have the penguin with the rifle. And they kind of figure I must be a Linux guy because they're starting to recognize the penguin. And I'm getting asked about it a lot. And it's so weird that the conversation a lot of times with people hasn't been, it's shifted from, what is Linux? And I go, well, it's another operating system. You've got Windows, you've got Mac, and you've got Linux. To, how do I use Linux? How do I install Linux? Like, Linux is now becoming a part of people's vocabulary. Also, there's a better version of Pop Shop built from Pop OS. Yeah. I know they're based in America. Well, System 76 is pretty solid. I have a laptop of theirs upstairs. I am actually using their keyboards. This is the System 76 Launch Heavy. I use the System 76 Launch over here. This is the same keyboard without the numpad, just because I wanted a little smaller one for the space, but I need my numpad. I like System 76. But my main laptop is a Tuxedo Computers, because I needed something at an AMD CPU and an NVIDIA GPU so I could switch to the AMD GPU, save some battery power, and then also get NVIDIA whenever I need it on the fly. I also use a Purism laptop, which is completely open source on the BIOS side of things, but I may be switching over to another company for that, for Cubes OS. Do you use AI a lot? Why don't you make apps? Because I'm not a developer. I develop things here and there in Python, PowerShell, and Bash for work, but maybe an occasional Lambda, serverless computing using Terraform, well, OpenTofu now, and then, you know, pushing it through Spacelift and stuff like that into AWS, but no, I'm not. You go to Morocco this summer? No, I didn't go to Morocco this summer. I probably won't be back for a few months or something. Aren't you tempted by the money? I got money in cybersecurity. Okay, so let's see what Jay is talking about. When I discovered Linux, it changed my life when it came to websites, email hosting. Yeah, I actually discovered Linux when I was a little kid, so I was fortunate enough that I had a family friend that was like, hey, I'm like 8, 9 years old. You ever heard of this thing called Linux? Like, no. He's like, okay, I'm going to show you Linux. Here's a little CD. We're going to boot it up. And then we're going to go for a war drive. What's war driving? Oh, you're going to like that. We're going to go take the neighbor's Wi-Fi. I had fun friends growing up, okay? Friends in my family were really fun.
To Linux. So welcome to the very first Linux video I'm ever going to have made on this channel. I say ever going to have made because I might do some follow-ups to us trying out this box here that we built.
He's going to do more. Watch.
But in all of the time that I have been doing YouTube...
I'm not against AI. I'm against people using it as a crutch. There's a total difference.
Every of the time since August 26, 2012, I have never touched a Linux topic in my life.
Which AI do I recommend? There's different ones for different purposes.
Opinionated mother... Enhance your...
You know what's funny is people say Linux people are very opinionated, but the honest truth is it's a very, very small vocal minority. The average Linux person that I've seen come across is just like, let's just get you to where you're happy with your computer. Now, of course, you got those Arch people. Sit down. We know you use Arch. Shush. Okay? You just sit down in your corner, have your bag of Cheetos, and you know, the rest of us are going to touch grass. But anyway... the honest truth is I find more of the people that are like, no, you got to use Microsoft are way more opinionated. Console gamers are probably the most opinionated out of all of them. At least in my experience. Your results may vary. That's been my honest opinion with things. Because every time I say I use Linux for gaming and stuff like that, it's never, like, it's very seldomly from the diehard gamers, like, oh, that's cool. It's usually, well, why the hell would you do that? You can't do a lot of gaming.
Monitor setup with the ViewSonic VP27885K, featuring 100% sRGB, 99% DCI P3 colors.
Gen 2 people as well. Yeah, I agree with that statement.
Perfectly with Mac's industry-leading color performance.
Oh, I want to make this very clear because I'm probably going to put this on YouTube later when we break this down for a React video. I do Mystery Science Theater videos, so I may talk over the video, okay? I don't like to do the whole pausing thing too much, even though I am right now. Yeah, I know, I just called myself out. Because I'm going to make the video way longer.
Laptops, PCs, Macs, and more with Thunderbolt 4, USB-C, HDMI DisplayPort, and USB inputs. If you're looking to increase your screen real estate for projects, click the link in the description.
Looks like an interesting monitor, though.
Yeah, how come you're not using Arch Linux?
He called it out! He called it out!
The last time I touched the Linux kernel was Ubuntu back in like 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. It's been a long time. That was back when I worked in a software development office and I was bored. I had a laptop up and was messing around.
I'm scared of Gen Beta. Also, they don't exist. Well, they're a beta generation. They're in test right now.
Gaming system for Linux, well, a gaming system built running Linux, to kind of just see what it's like from a very beginner's perspective.
I just realized my background music is probably going to clash with his.
Because I want to get aggressive with you down in the comments and start blocking people and stuff. You are going to probably have a different way to approach this. That's the thing with Linux being open source, is the fact that there is a bajillion different ways that you can do it. And yes, what is the old saying?
What have I been saying?
Running Arch, because they'll tell you. Do you know how many of you told me you're running Arch in the comments of the video where we were running Bazzite? Anyway, that's what we're doing today. We're running Bazzite. It's a very easy install process. You're up and running very fast. It was.
I want to make a movement that anyone that, speaks harshly about Linux users, we need to remind them those are the Arch users.
This is the system I built for that. So what I actually wanted to say before I started to say I don't want to get aggressive in the comments, if you have what you think is a better approach for this, please respectfully put it down in the comments, but include some information that's actually useful, not why did you go with Bazzite and not yada yada, because guess what? That doesn't tell you anything. All that does is come off as a pedantic put down. So, if you're going to recommend a different distro of some sort, say, I recommend this distro because, and it has a user rating in terms of difficulty 1 to 10 of put a number. Now, keep in mind, if you're approaching people that are beginners, what might seem like a 5 difficulty to you might be a 10 to someone that's new. So try to put...
That's a very good point, so I'm pausing right now for a second because I don't want to talk too much over him. That's the reason why I recommend Pop! OS to a lot of people. It's very easy to a lot of beginner users, and if you're an advanced user, it's very capable just as much too. Plus, the NVIDIA drivers are pre-installed into Pop! OS, which is why I like it, and System76 will do some QA before they push the drivers in their repo, which is generally why I like Pop! OS. And the fact that I used to come from the Mac land of things, and actually like the Mac UI a little bit, even though there were some questionable things they do with it, which is why I like Pop! OS and their take on GNOME, but...
Back in perspective of being new, I know it's hard for a lot of you Linux folks, but bear with me. We're going to try this here today. So here's the system that I built. It is running a 14700K and a Z790 ITX board from ASRock. ASRock Phantom.
I haven't done a liquid cooling system in like 15 years.
Board that I have. 32 gigabytes of DDR5 running 6400.
Not against them. I just like my stuff to,
it does have a 200
reliably work.
AIO that is cooling.
So I can blow it out. But that's got an AIO.
Our MPH 240. We used to joke around, it's the miles per hour. It's got an 850 watt SFX power supply because we are also, for the GPU, running a...
In all honesty, I probably would have gone with an AMD.
AMD card. And the reason for that is Linux support for AMD graphics cards tends to be better than NVIDIA. Although NVIDIA does seem to be improving in terms of the graphics support, at least on Bazzite, because...
So, pausing again. NVIDIA's been working fine for Pop! OS. I've had this machine for three years or so. My 3070 is just fine.
Phil actually went home.
Now, admittedly, AMD has the drivers built into the Linux kernel, so you don't have to install the proprietary package.
Playing Cyberpunk and other games and kind of doing some performance comparisons and stuff, and said everything appeared to be working. DLSS was working, ray tracing was working. Like, it was a pretty seamless.
And NVIDIA has the open source drivers now.
Which is an RTX 4080 with.
What's up, Angelic Flambe?
And that was another flawless experience for him. In fact, if you're just in there playing the game and you hand the controls to someone and they're playing, they would never know they're playing on Linux. That's how seamless it is. Now, obviously, there's going to be limitations to what you can do with Linux. Now, in terms of desktop...
To be honest, and I'm pausing a second because I don't want to, miss what he's about to talk about, but Linux, the honest truth is with any operating system, you shouldn't really know what operating system you're using. No one uses an operating system. Let me make that very clear. Nobody uses Mac, uses Windows, uses Linux. People use applications on these. An operating system should just be there to serve up your applications and then get the hell out of your way. The thing I don't like about Windows is it's constantly in my frickin' way. And I think a lot of people are experiencing that frustration too.
Software support, you got to look into individual software you want to run to see if it has Linux installs and the level of support that's going to be supported for the OS. But like, for instance, OBS does have, if you want to do live streaming, does have a Linux install.
OBS was basically made for Linux. It's the Open Broadcaster Studio.
This, like, for instance, my Insta360 Link 2 camera that's got the gimbal and all that does have a driver and stuff that works, but it's unknown yet, because I haven't tried it, whether or not I'll get the software to run, which gives me the gimbal control. So
that won't work. When I tried it, my OBS bot 2 doesn't work. The Instalink 360 I got upstairs didn't really work for the controls there outside of the hand.
But anyway, I digress. It basically
maybe somebody's figured out something since I tinkered with it.
Which allows me to drag and drop like sound effects and pad samples and all that sort of stuff. However, everything else, it'll work as like a giant DAC at that point. And that's okay for Linux if I don't care about the sound pads and stuff and programming them.
Wait, what did you talk about?
To run, which gives me the gimbal control. My Rodecaster 2, which we use in our podcast room. Yes, I know we haven't podcasted in forever. Hopefully this Friday. But anyway, I digress. Basically, the software itself won't run in Linux, which allows me to drag and drop like sound effects and pad samples and all that sort of stuff. However, everything else, it'll work as like a giant DAC at that point. And that's okay for Linux.
So I'm actually using the Rodecaster Pro 2 for my stuff, and it works plenty fine. I haven't dragged and dropped samples over it. I do use the Windows side for that reason. There are some limitations, but they're starting to get better, but you can load up an SD card and then I think pull things off of it. I haven't tried that, but also for a lot of sound effects, what I've done is I've run the audio over the Linux box, be caught into the mixer, record off the mixer, and then program that to a pad. It's a little bit more convoluted potentially, but it is workable.
I don't care about the sound.
That's how you get fun things like this.
Circumcision confirmed.
Pads and stuff and programming them, because everything we would need that to do is actually controlled on.
I'll start learning Linux best source, install it, and start using it.
And all of the compressors.
The best way to, like learn any language or, tech thing, really, it's the same way. Immerse yourself in it. Force yourself to use it. That's how I got really deep into it many, many years ago. I just decided, this was back in the Ubuntu 8.04 days, like 2008 or so. I'm going to make everything run on Linux. I'm just going to stick with it. And here I am, decade and a half later.
All that stuff is built in.
Pretty comfortable.
Software to run. However, what we do use the software for is when we record the audio and offload that into the software, which then transcodes it into an MP3 for us that we upload to Buzzsprout to then syndicate it to all of the podcasting services. That is built into the software. So we would have to figure out a workaround for that. It's not impossible. It's just these are the.
I haven't really dealt with that side of things of Rodecaster, so.
Like Linux or any of the million distros that are out there versus all the native Windows support. So kind of in a nutshell, for gaming, pretty good support. Content creation, we'll give it a middle thumb depending on what you're trying to do. Like Adobe and all that really isn't going to work on Linux. However, DaVinci Resolve theoretically does. So we haven't.
DaVinci Resolve does work on Linux, but the reality is I use Kdenlive for all of my editing. It's completely open source. Originally, I built my machine thinking I was going to be using DaVinci Live. But as you can see, like my most recent, video right here, I did this all in Kdenlive. I haven't paid for this software. It's free, Libre, and open source. It is available on Mac, Windows, and Linux if you want to go use it yourself, actually. It's been plenty fine for my needs. I haven't really felt the need to move over to DaVinci. And the issue with DaVinci, by the way, on Linux is you do need need an NVIDIA card. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. So his machine that he built with an AMD GPU will not work with DaVinci. Mine will, which is why I always got an NVIDIA GPU for the planning of eventually moving over to that. But then Kden Live worked with the AMD GPU on the internal GPU of my laptop. And I actually, when I'm on the go with the laptop, will render my videos using the integrated GPU in H.264, but then I had some issues with the H.265 side with NVIDIA. But yeah, you can, do that.
But that's what we're reading. And then
Kden Live is perfectly fine for the average person. There's a person that I actually saw a video for. I'm gonna see if I can dig it up later and put it in the Discord. That she was actually talking about how she uses Kden Live, Inkscape, and all this other stuff as a YouTuber. And I think there's a lot of open source tools that are very capable out there. GIMP, GNU Image Manipulation Processor, is actually becoming a very capable compared to Adobe.
There's
Photoshop.
Like OpenRGB and a lot of third-party support to actually be able to control like your RGB software and stuff, or like Phil, for instance, has like the Razer Synapse stuff and other Razer devices and RGB devices that
Boo! Razer, boo!
called Open Razer that works in Linux. So
I'm sorry, they're just overpriced. They're just overpriced garbage from every time I tried them.
Using Bazzite today, so we're gonna set this up over here.
There's way better stuff in my opinion.
Me through it because I've never done it, and by him walking me through it, he's gonna be walking you through it.
I haven't done this in a bit. Okay, so first thing you got to do.
Oh yeah, GIMP got a major update. They're on GIMP 3.0.
I assume that you already have at least one working computer.
Or laptop.
Yeah, or something.
Or friend's computer. So what does immutable mean?
The OS is on its own separate partition that's read-only.
So they're talking about making a live image that's bootable. Pretty straightforward.
Immutable just means it's a lot more idiot-proof than your standard like Linux distribution, where
Because Linux is full power. Like most like Arch and all that, you can go in there and really mess things up.
that's Arch's whole philosophy is that
It's a build your own OS.
yeah, exactly, build your own piecemeal. Like,
Razer Viper is one of the top-rated mice. I don't know. I still like my Logitech G903 with the power play mat.
Fedora, make it immutable so that it's a lot more difficult for the user to kind of mess up the OS. And then let's add all of the gaming specific packages that things like SteamOS and
Okay, I understand what he's trying to do, but let me simplify this for you all. An immutable operating system or distribution is basically that it has a set config that will never change. You can modify it, but you have to modify the static files in there. So I've touched on this with Cubes OS, where certain virtual machines that I'm running are immutable. The beauty of an immutable operating system is that if you have any issue, restart it, back to good config. It's a lot more simpler than, they're explaining. Now, of course, there is nuance and complexity that comes to an immutable operating system and how you have to manage that. So that's a whole other story.
have done.
Now I want to step in real quick. A lot of people had negative things to say about it being an immutable because they're probably Linux power users, which is why you wouldn't want them.
Can I use an old Dell PC for a storage server? Yeah.
That maybe just built their first system.
You're just talking about file storage. You don't need that much power.
Get up in gaming with AAA titles like this for free.
Yep.
Now there's free ways to get Windows, but this is obviously an anti-Windows type of video here. So it says right here, own games outside of Steam, Lutris, which is pre-installed, and other launchers can only run games from most game stores, but cleanly integrate them into Steam gaming mode, which includes EA app, Epic Games,
See?
GOG,
I use Lutris.
itch.io, Rockstar, Ubisoft, your dad's old CDs, and more. So basically, it's like a one-stop gaming launcher OS type service, but you obviously have other things built into it, like you have your browser and a desktop, and you can stream from it and all that.
When we download
Immutable OS was a thing on a consumer-based platform.
if you click the
It's relatively new.
we're using.
Oh wait, where
It's a newer concept bleeding into the mainstream.
desktop, handheld,
But we use them in the corporate world quite often.
and VMs, obviously. All right, so desktop. What is the vendor of your primary GPU? So we're going to say AMD RX 4000 plus. Oh, it even supports ARC. That's cool. ARC and NVIDIA. And then what desktop environment do you prefer? Steam OS or what's GNOME?
GNOME is Fedora's default
This is GNOME. This is GNOME, and it's not GNOME, it's GNOME. I'm not trying to be picky here, but that is literally the pronunciation the project has given it. It's not GNOME, it's GNOME. Because it's part of the whole GNU. You know, GNU's not Unix philosophy, which we can go down that rabbit hole someday. You know, one of these days for a movie night, we should watch Revolution OS. It's a good documentary if you haven't been aware of that. That talks about how Linux came to be, the free software movement and everything. It's free out there. It's an hour-and-a-half documentary. You can find it on YouTube and a bunch of other places.
Desktop environment. So the desktop environment is basically the user interface.
So people ask me, by the way, because I know people are going to ask, why don't I use KDE?
Up here just because
I just haven't gotten KDE to look the way I want it, and I want the Mac-ish user interface and stuff.
as like a home theater PC.
I like Pop OS, the way it does it out of the box.
Steam gaming mode is enabled.
So what you're referring to is, do you want Steam gaming?
What's up, Sank Logic? How's it going?
To log into game mode and only supports a single user.
Yeah, which
Is that like big picture?
Yeah, it is exactly big picture. It's actually, in fact, exactly how SteamOS handles.
So I'm going to say no, because we still want this to be a full.
a desktop kind of computer in OS. Yeah. So then you're just gonna download the ISO for Windows. I usually like.
There's a command to rebase it. Yeah, Rufus, pretty straightforward to install images with Windows. You can also do Ventoy. I've talked about Ventoy many times.
Basically, all those drivers all support.
Ventoy is actually pretty nice if you want to have multiple distributions and ISOs on one flash drive instead of using one at a time like Rufus.
Like the stigma has always been NVIDIA support in Linux is terrible, but at least for Bazzite and your 4080 and the games that you tried it on, it was pretty seamless.
Yeah.
From a Windows experience.
I've heard anywhere from like a minus 15% to like 25% performance hit. Although I didn't really see that in the games I tested, which was like Cyberpunk and Control and a few other titles and stuff. But I haven't really
Yeah, you were seeing a couple of FPS difference.
Yeah. In fact, it's weird because even in Forza Horizon, I actually saw a game in average FPS.
Stigma's changing finally.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of just your mileage may vary depending on what game you're playing and like.
I linked the documentary I mentioned.
AMD is concerned, I've always heard that it's basically either a negligible performance difference or it's faster under Linux. Okay, cool. So our ISO is downloaded, so you're gonna go ahead and open Rufus.
Eh.
Okay, so Rufus is open. Do we need to format?
So I use an AMD CPU and NVIDIA GPU because I need CUDA.
Okay, disk
Ventoy does have its problems at times, I will be honest. Yes, you are right, 1012.
file, Bazzite,
Bazzite
the ISO.
AMD, and then just go ahead and hit start.
You're welcome, Kara.
Back once the USB stick is burnt, and then burnt. Jeez.
Flashed!
Showing my age now.
It might burn it.
We'll be back, and then we will show you how to install it on the computer.
So now take it to the system that we're going to install back.
So pretty much installing it is the same way as installing Windows or Mac or, well, Mac's a little bit different. We're not going down that route.
Priorities to go to this, because this drive actually has a Windows OS on it. Yeah. So we need that nuked, and then obviously we are going to reinstall.
You can dual boot, but the honest truth is I advise against that because Windows, the bootloader messes things up, but there is a way to hook it in by installing, and the Windows bootloader controls it and then won't mess it up, but yeah.
It's going to probably look different, or not your OS, but your BIOS, it's going to look different, so you're going to have to kind of, if you don't know your BIOS very well, you're going to have to look that up and figure out what works best.
But if you're building a...
Just have a cat walk across your keyboard. It'll figure it out eventually.
No matter what, yeah.
So let's see, install Bazzite, or test the media and install. Should we?
No, I don't do it.
You don't need to do that, but testing the media is good to do if you don't trust the flash drive.
No, it's...
I have found bad flash drives that install wonky things. Well, it gets installed wonky because there's corruption and stuff.
Fedora 41 now.
But it's a rarity.
It's going to look very hacker screeny. It's so going for the garbage file looking.
So fun tip, if you ever boot your,
Installation, no disk selected.
we watched that, by the way, a few months ago.
Time zone.
If you ever boot your Linux box, most of them, if you press escape while it boots, you can actually see the launch in a CLI kind of format,
Storage configuration,
like they were showing.
And then I would check that box that says free up space by removing or shrinking existing partitions because we want to nuke whatever else is on there.
So, okay, so click free up space by removing and shrinking existing partitions. And
I usually do custom.
we want to preserve any of these partitions. Like,
So he didn't encrypt his disk. I would have done that and done it with Lux, so there's a password when you boot up. You can actually have the password tie in from Lux to your user.
probably no point.
But yeah, I encrypt my disks always.
Default Bazzite with the password of Bazzite. And that's pretty much it as far as...
They probably just skipped that step because they're just trying to get it together.
Buy our new stuff.
Isn't that a bit refreshing?
Microsoft is no longer in the business of making OSs. The OS is nothing but a data mining tool.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been saying that for years.
Data Microsoft sells and how much money they make on the data versus the sales of Windows. Bet you they make more money on the sale of the data, which means they should just make.
That's why I crack up when people say that they're trying to get one over on Microsoft and pirate it because Microsoft isn't going to make money off of them, not realizing the reason why Microsoft doesn't care that you're pirating your little home user version of it is because the data that they're collecting off of your use of a pirated version of Windows is way more valuable. And then people are cracking their Windows so that they can get rid of the watermark when you can just run that just fine, and then possibly introducing malware because that's the vector a lot of them coming through.
So you're paying to be spied on.
Now it's done. So
Now it says reboot system.
click reboot.
Fair enough. There you go. Simplification.
I mean, it should automatically.
You're
change
paying to get spied on,
I think to this now, right?
even if you're not paying for it.
Perform mock management. What
That's
is
for,
mock?
So this is for secure boot stuff. You can just say continue boot.
It's a little bitty wheel.
I haven't used the mock.
Update.
That's interesting.
What's a carg? I bet you're gonna tell us.
Cool. So it's one reboot and should be.
Wait, what was it saying?
Was it like a?
I haven't seen that little boot thing they did, but then again, I don't really use secure boot that much.
Bazzite and Fedora Atomic desktops is that you always get
Uh,
the current version.
That is kind of interesting that the motherboard's doing the boot loop inside of it, because usually mine boots into the operating system doing the booting. I don't know. Maybe there's a different way it's hooking in, but
And then when it doesn't,
I haven't played with that much side of it too much.
In case an update breaks, you can get in the bootloader and then.
All right, so password should be Bazzite. Oh, I like that background. That's cool. Okay, system fatal error, probably because we need internet. It does look very Windowsy so far,
Yeah.
like enough to where you don't feel lost.
That's why I picked KDE because GNOME is more Mac-like.
Connect to the internet. So Firefox is pre-installed. So this is application launcher. Oh, this is very Windowsy looking.
That's kind of why
That's also why I don't like KDE out the box. You can customize KDE however you want.
I chose KDE over GNOME.
Well, let me put it this way, okay? Before, they get into their thing, and I'll see what they say. Back to his original point where he says that, the beauty of Linux is that you can customize it to be however you want. I don't think Windows users realize just how inefficient the user experience and workflow inside of Windows is, because you have to understand it's Windows 95 paradigms that have just gotten slapped with more crap on top of each other in each iteration. So eventually you have to reinvent the wheel. So that's why I actually like the approach that I do with different things. Don't get me wrong. Start out this way, but don't get fixated in staying in here and explore a little bit and then find your comfortable niche.
GNOME is a little bit more Mac-like. KDE is
One more till Trace on Unger. From Denmark and love listening and learning before sleep. Nice. Thanks for being here, buddy. Happy hacking.
You can buy our merch. Our merch is Linux compatible.
Wow, you can't get away from the constant Steam updater even on Linux, huh?
Yep.
Oh, my pleasure, bud. Appreciate that you're enjoying this.
I now know how to log into your Steam, so you're gonna do that. I like.
If you don't know how to log into Steam, you don't know how to play the game.
Use the
The game is playing you.
Steam utility or the Steam app to log in, so I have to remember my password. So let's see, OBS.
I don't know my own password. I just use a password manager.
Oh yeah, and it does the.
Hey, Seeknay, did you get unbanned?
It gets all big.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, Seeknay got banned over on the Tiki-Takis because he decided to educate people on PowerShell. It was a raise, right? You were doing a raise. That's what you got banned for? Yeah. Don't you know you can't educate the masses? The talks don't like it. Oh, you won on appeal? Yeah. Did you do the appeal through the legal form thing? That's been more successful for me than doing it through the app.
PackRef. I'm assuming that's File Explorer. So downloads.
Oh, cool. Nice. Okay.
Wow, that was easy.
I was worried that it was actually not going to be that complicated, or it was going to be more complicated.
So I never really download Flatpaks that way. So normally what I do is I do it straight in the GUI. Look, I'm old school this way, so I'm just going to show you. So like, I'm just going to do like a Flatpak update. And then it grabs in, okay? You can see there's things here. I'm not going to go through with the update. But you can actually, that's Open Morrowind it's trying to install. So let me see if I can, here, I'll show you. FlatHub.org. So this is the most popular Flatpak repository. So if you go to like any one of these packages, I'm just going to pull one up. And you click the install right here. Do you see how it says like Flatpak install FlatHub app.dray.warp? So you can easily, just if you want, drop that in. And then install as the user. And then see it's going to pull all that in. And then you click yes, and it'll pull it in. I like Flatpaks a lot better than appeal to the app. And hey, I got unbanned. I coincidentally made a LinkedIn post. It's funny how that works. But yeah, so I like using FlatHub and installing it through the web. That's just me. To each their own.
What I'm doing is I'm just trying to see, without you showing me, can I navigate to something?
Flatpak install package and hope Flatpak gets the correct rep.
And I've used Mac for years.
We call that plug and pray, my dude.
That's cool. So yeah, so a lot of Linux programs I would hope would just link you to the right place in the store.
So the Discover store is, Bazzite uses primarily a Flatpak style app install. So the Discover store is basically the repository for that. So.
Right.
Let me explain this a little bit better. So each operating system usually has their own shop. I'm opening up the pop shop here. I don't normally use the pop shop. I'm just giving you an example. Because I like command line. What's up, X1? How's it going, bud? As you can see, it's taking its sweet time. That's part of the reason why I don't like. I know Pop! OS 2404 is going to be a lot smoother and everything with Cosmic DE because the Rust is going to improve it and everything. Okay, so let me see if I can. Okay, so you see right here, it has apt resources over here. So this can do straight up plain Debian packages. But the extra sources you can do are different things. So like you see I have like VS Code in here, which is installed through there. Proton VPN has their own repo. Steam has their own little app repo and stuff like that. But then you can have Flatpaks and everything like that. So all the App Store is really doing is pulling from all these different sources. Now, Pop! OS does the same thing where they have a preference of installing things through a Flatpak. So let's just find something. I think this is, yep, see? You can pick it from FlatHub. It defaults to FlatHub. Now, the difference is, if you notice, it's Flatpak and system-wide Flatpak, because I had to do and install some packages through the system. But let's, like, for example, I'm just going to, find OBS, okay? Because I don't have OBS on this box. But you see, it's going to pull in from Flatpak over here, and it's doing the install right now. So all this is a package manager. So what they're talking about with, the App Store and everything like that, it's package management. This is the one thing that actually really amazes and perplexes a lot of Windows users, because Linux has had package management since the 1990s. No, you did not mishear me. The 1990s. So the package management, the beauty about this is that, so when you're with Windows, think about it this way. All right. I got to get my new driver. All right, now I got to go to NVIDIA, download that. Oh, I got to get the, keyboard driver. I got to go to the keyboard, manufacturer, get the driver from there. I got to go, get Adobe Photoshop. And then I'm going to go get Steam. And then every single application you can think of on your system, including system updates, your security and everything. So, you know, you're thinking about, okay, I'm in Windows. I have to go to Windows updates, do my Microsoft updates. I have to update Office possibly separately, depending on how it is. Then you have to, you know, think about that. That's a good, like, hour, 2 hours of all these updates and everything. So what a package manager does is it actually tracks all of that and allows you to install and manage everything in one singular place. That's one of the major advantages of Linux, and Windows only started doing package management with winget only a few years ago, and it's still far away from what Linux can do. And Linux has multiple package managers to do this. So you can do apt, as X1 just mentioned. So you can have apt, there's yum, there's DNF, there's zipper, there's pacman, there's portage, there's all these different ones, and they all have their nuances, strengths, weaknesses, things like that. Like portage will build it from sources. Apt usually does binaries, and you know, you can also build it from source code, things like that. Then you have flat packs and snap packages and things like that. We're not going to get too deep into that, but the base understanding is a flat pack is a container for the entire thing. So the cool thing is all the dependencies are packaged into Flatpak. And the other thing, which I don't think they're going to get quite into, we'll see when we do this, there's another thing you can run. Now, you can do this manually through command line, but sometimes, as we know, a GUI app may be a little bit easier for here and there. So you can use a thing called flat seal. So what this allows me to do is manage the permissions and access of my different flat packs and stuff like that. So for example, we'll open up Steam here. I needed to add into my Steam flat pack. That's why you see two different Steam icons there. One is the apt installed one using a deb package. .deb is basically the exe equivalent inside of Debian, kind of. Well, it's more like an MSI, but you get the point. And from here, I was able to add in the additional disks that it could see. And then, of course, give it the different permissions and everything, because everything's containerized. So if you notice, I have Firefox in here. My Firefox here originally came prepackaged with a Debian version, you know, that was installed through the apt package manager when you install the system. And then it works just fine. But I like a Flatpak. Why? Because it's a container. It allows for additional isolation, so if there is a security issue, I at least have a little bit of sandboxing. Not as hard as a virtual machine, but a little bit more nice, comfy security. So, like, when overall, I like the Flatpak idea of things. Now, Ubuntu runs with snap packages. I'm not as much of a fan of snap packages for a myriad of reasons, but
Usually,
let's get back to this.
you're going to be searching for an app.
Oh, I use Chocolatey. Chocolatey works great. I use Chocolatey on the Windows PC.
You find out it's in Flatpak, then you.
Okay, so here's everything installed here. Clearly, you can see there's also.
I use the -y as well, X1.
Yeah, that's what stuff is all.
The stuff that's already installed that has updates that need to be done, so you can just auto-update it from here.
Okay, so he is talking about the package manager. They just, I don't think, realize they're talking about the package management.
So far, this looks very Windows-like. Now, big picture, obviously. So if we were to set this to big picture mode, whoops, which is what, right here? Now, where is it? Right here.
Yep.
So if you would select that setting that said single user, big picture, or Steam OS mode, this is what would boot. Like, it would go through all the Bazzite stuff and then here.
Yep.
Like, this is your OS at that point. Well, I don't care for big picture personally, but I just wanted to show people what that looked like.
It looks like big picture mode.
The games that are compatible with Linux. Because right now, this is going to show me my whole library and stuff. But obviously, not all of these games are going to work with Linux.
I don't know why he blurred all that. Okay, oh, there we go.
If it's a Windows game, it'll run through a compatibility layer called Proton, which is what Valve has developed for SteamOS and the Steam Deck to basically get.
I'm glad they're calling it a compatibility layer and not an emulation thing, because it's not emulation.
Linux native version. All of them will attempt to run via Proton.
Proton uses as part of it something called Wine, and Wine stands for Wine is not an emulator.
But
let's see what happens if I try and run this like super indie game.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just curious. Now, while that's
Indie games tend to work better with Linux. I've rarely had issues. It's usually the games that have kernel level anti-cheat in the shady, sketchy ways.
Click the collection.
Like Mecha Break. I couldn't play that game.
And then create dynamic collection. And then if you go to the Steam Deck.
Meta, bust rate Frank again.
What is the best Linux distribution for everyday use? I'm in cybersecurity using Windows and Mac. I only use Kali and Ubuntu. The best Linux distribution is the one that suits your workflow. I like Pop! OS. You may not like Pop! OS. Maybe you'll like Parrot OS. To each their own. Play around. The fallacy, and I've talked about this in another YouTube video, that a lot of people have, is believing that what is the best Linux? There is no the best Linux. There is what is the best Linux for me. What's good for me may not be great for you. I like Pop! OS. A lot of people like Pop! OS. Maybe you don't like to touch grass and want to install Arch. Oh yeah, let me turn the...
You can do verified only.
What's your browser choice? I usually use Firefox. I do use Chromium to run the chat, because I have a merged chat here for all the platforms I'm streaming to.
This is a very indie game.
Chances are it should just work as if it was Windows.
Brave is okay.
It literally just worked. A completely untested game.
Most games will just
Yeah,
work.
it's working just fine.
A lot different from your last Linux experience, I'm guessing.
Oh my god.
So as you can see, if you stick to
Also, Arch definitely not a no-touch grass distro, in my opinion. More of a Gen 2 thing.
So if you're wondering what we're
Either way,
we're talking about a compatibility.
it's no-touch grass adjacent.
So obviously, a Windows game is going to expect Windows things like DirectX and.
Is it emulating the environment?
It's not an
No!
It's a translation. So what it does is basically.
Thank you!
Like DirectX to Vulkan, which is the Linux.
People need to get out of this vernacular, this vocabulary of using emulation. Emulation is, I have a Game Boy. That is completely different hardware. We have to emulate the processor, the hardware, all of that to make it run. All we're doing is translating API, DLLs, executables, and such calls into a Linux compatible way. So in the way that, I don't know if they're going to go into it, but in Linux, we're basically taking those DirectX and preferably, if you can, run your games on Linux in Vulkan, and then it will translate it into Vulkan. So, yeah, Vulkan and OpenGL natively run in Linux. Those will get you the best performance when gaming on Linux. An explosion of built-for-gaming distros unrelated to Pop! OS. Oh, yeah. But the reality is there's nothing really special about any of the distributions that say that they're built for gaming. There's really not. At the end of the day, if you pop the hood on almost any one of these distributions, they're more or less running the exact same packages of software, it's just configured in different ways. So like I said, there's no best Linux. There's what's best for me and what I want my workflow to be.
The whole it's not emulation is that's why the performance hit is so tiny and or sometimes even a performance gain.
Here's a true test. This game, the movies, is like 20 years old, maybe? In fact, it's not even on the Steam store anymore. It's just because I have it. So let's see if this will run. Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe
It might be too old.
this one may not.
I don't know. Actually, I find older games work a little bit better on Linux.
So how do we now force exit of a program?
Alt-Tab.
Oh yeah, okay, so Alt F4 is still the same. Okay, cool.
Alt-Tab, Alt-F4.
It doesn't work. Okay, well, Locked Up is an indie game.
Beginners will think they need that distro break and turn people away. Oh, absolutely.
Go to here, right? Linux stuffs, and then we can go to Steam Deck and verified and playable. Right, that'd probably be our best compatibility there, even though we've got the yellow. So now this will show us all the games that are verified and playable for Steam Deck, which will translate over to Bazzite. All right, here we go. So the last one we just did was an unknown game, Locked Up. It's just the last played today. Oh, there it goes. And that was an unknown. So just because it's not on the verified list doesn't mean it won't work. It just means obviously there's too many titles for them to have gone through and tested all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it plays just fine. Look at that.
You can go to ProtonDB and ProtonDB.com and look up your games and see if they actually have people that have reviewed that game for running. Just because Valve hasn't officially given it a rating doesn't mean that it doesn't play.
It's just called Heroic.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So
Yep.
download from FlatHub.
I use Heroic for
Launchers into this.
Rocket League
Okay, so I have to log into each one.
and Bioshock.
You want to download from. So right now let's try Rocket League, which will be on the Epic Game Store. So
Go to library. Hey, there's Rocket League. So
you just click
download.
I gotta reinstall my Rocket League apparently.
Oh, okay, wait. Alt F4. We fixed it.
Yep.
Okay, so obviously we saw Steam works. It's very familiar layout enough to where you don't feel lost if you're trying to move from Windows to this. Obviously with Heroic, we could do
Mint is
our
always what I recommend at beginners, even though I run Arch, by the way.
if you're playing EA
Of course you
games
do.
and such.
I recommend Pop OS to a lot of people.
Online gaming,
Mint,
that is where it's not all unicorns and rainbows.
there was something that pissed me off about Mint a few years ago.
basically all of the big.
I think I shied away from it when they
are not are just
had malware on their ISOs. They got compromised and they were spreading malware. Not their fault, you know, cyber incidents happen, but I think ever since then I kind of just
They have offline
didn't use them.
and stuff.
It's been many years though.
Battle Royales and online only.
if it
And I just like Pop OS a lot better. I like what System 76 is doing, and I think Cosmic DE is going to be great.
to Linux.
Because what about like Easy Anti-Cheat?
Yeah.
Or EAC?
EAC is pretty much the big one, so
That does or does not work?
does not work. So
Easy Anti-Cheat does work on Linux if developers enable it. What is it? I think Halo Master Chief Collection, they actually, it does work. It's a developer issue. A lot of these anti-cheat problems are down to developers doing things.
Fortnite, GTA, League, Roblox, Rust, Rainbow Six, Valorant. Again, all the big AAA titles that are going to be multiplayer are.
So even though we just launched Rocket League, we wouldn't be able to play a match.
You could play a match on Rocket League.
It really works fine on Linux.
You just listed Rocket League though.
No, I said Rainbow Six
Oh, they said Rocket.
and Roblox and Rust. Yeah. So older games.
And you can play Grand Theft Auto 5. I played it a few years ago.
Fine, but yeah.
Just fine. Unless they change something radically.
And you were saying
Pop OS good for a beginner? Yeah, Pop OS is fine.
it's just they don't want
Log into ProtonDB with your Steam account, you can see how your games are rated.
to
Yep.
keep it updated for Linux.
That's the most frustrating thing is, yeah, like, because Easy Anti-Cheat has Linux, like, binaries for their.
I will never install kernel level anti-cheat, not on Linux, not on Windows. Well, any game that has kernel level anti-cheat in Linux is actually running in user space. You'll know if it runs in kernel level because it will ask for your password.
Gaming and stuff, or non-competitive online games that require the anti-cheat software. So just to kind of recap though, so it was, go to Bazzite, download the ISO, you downloaded Rufus, you created the ISO, we put it in over here, did a fresh install, all the drivers and stuff. You notice we didn't load a single driver. Everything worked on its own. The wireless, the keyboard, the mouse, the graphics card, everything, because you select all that when you're creating your installer. Once we're up and running, the only things we installed separately was the Heroic Games Launcher, and that was it.
More or less, it's going to be the same experience when you have Pop OS, just installing all the stuff manually.
For a first, I would consider myself first time. I haven't used Linux.
Is Bazzite the one made by Gloria Segrel? I'm not sure.
Again, that was Ubuntu.
But I do use Proton GE for my stuff.
Play games. So I think if you're someone that's like, I want to mess around in Linux, I want to get my feet kind of like dip my toes in, but I don't want to be overwhelmed, I feel like Bazzite is a really good way to start. Now, to keep this video very authentic, the Bazzite team did reach out to me after we showed the video wall, but I did not respond to them other than to say, hey guys, thanks for welcoming me to the community.
Oh, it's a Fedora port? Okay, that makes sense.
Reach out to us.
Fedora project. Oh, okay.
But
I haven't looked too much into Bazzite. It's one of those, like, look, there's so many distributions. It's kind of like,
so
pick an axe head and stick with it.
Who knows? That could be some weird, like.
They're all Linux.
Out of date.
the BIOS is very out of date on this system. But yeah, and then as you can see, we were up and running as long as you know your logins to your stuff. So it was actually very simple. Now,
It does look interesting. I'm just not interested in completely redoing my entire workflow and rebuilding my machine.
is such a locked down,
You
simple
can throw it on a virtual machine.
Linux can be.
I've got all my stuff configured.
Or as complex as you want to make it. That's what is.
Although I could reinstall everything I need in about an hour and a half or two because all the important stuff is on my NAS.
How you build your own OS based on the things you want to, plug and play in there. And that. And
Yeah, it's never the issue of
or you can
the
add-
software. It's never the issue of the operating system switching. It's getting all the applications moved over, getting your config set back up, setting up the dark modes, the config. Yeah, I totally understand. Thank you for the follow, Drunken Fist.
You saw,
Fist Sifu.
where there's no nagging. There's no like blah blah blah. Like
Couldn't have shut down the project when Fedora had a proposal to drop 32-bit support.
On here. I'd love to know what the
I know. That's
Yeah, I heard Fedora wanted to drop 32-bit support, which is a little bit out of touch because you're going to need 32...
Scroll down.
Let's pause for a sec. So the 32-bit support thing is interesting because you can run IA32 libs and all that, you know, decently well. The issue is that Steam itself is still a 32-bit package, from my understanding. That's the issue.
Where's updates? Update software is by.
How's NVIDIA's support with Linux nowadays? I've been using this NVIDIA 3070 for a few years on Pop! OS with no issues. I have a 4070 on my laptop.
update the way they steal your data.
Update the spyware. Yeah.
Never like Fedora. I have friends that love it, but I always hated it. DNF is so slow. I like Fedora because it's a Red Hat Enterprise Linuxy type thing, a RHEL type, but I grew up with Debian, so I like the Debian way of things. That's just what I'm comfortable with.
For somebody that wants to start playing around. So like I said, please list down below, if you're going to comment, keep it constructive and keep it useful. Say what distro you recommend, why, and its average user difficulty rating would be. Yeah. And when I say average user, I don't mean average Linux user, but like average just Windows user, because you got to assume they're coming from an environment where this is all new. I like the fact that it's immutable though, because I can't go in there and break it. You know, like you can go into Windows registry.
Oh, you can still go in and break it, trust me.
Time to get on out of here. I hope you guys have enjoyed our first touch into Linux. I'm debating potentially throwing another drive in my system I just built and having it be just a Linux drive to screw around with at home.
Steam is based on GTK2. I wish they would move away from that.
So,
yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Like I said,
so I'm just going to leave my little comment here. For my work and gaming needs. And the QA they do into the NVIDIA drivers, amongst other things. You should do more Linux videos. Well, here's the thing. Let me preface this with, I am by no means hating on Jay. I like him. I've been, you know, I followed him for quite a few years. He's probably one of the few non-professional tech creators I actually like and respect. Because he will straight up say, I don't know this. I know what I know, but I don't know this. And he's not really a professional tech guy. I don't know how deep he'll get into the Linux side of things, because he's like, I need this to do the thing that I need it to do. I don't know how deep I'm going to get into it. He's more of a hands-on hardware kind of guy. Not saying that he won't, like, tinker with things like that. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that I would expect much in the way of Linux videos from him. It'd be nice to see him talk more about, you know, doing Linux and seeing him open up to using it, encouraging people to try it, because the Microsoft monopoly needs to, you know, go away. It needs to go the way of the dodo. We need to have more choice. We need to have more freedoms, privacy, security around a lot of our things. And yeah, that's my personal take on it. I like I said, I would like to see him, you know, of course, make more Linux videos. I just don't know if I would expect him to make, like, Linux videos, but more like, hey, I started using Linux, and this is what I'm, you know, feeling with it. These are the pros and cons I've had of it, and, you know, just kind of encouraging the average person. I would like his takes in that way for the average person to be like, yeah, Linux isn't so scary, all that. Because the problem is, and I see this all too often, a lot of people don't know what Linux is, and they dive into using Arch or some other convoluted thing right from the get-go, and then they get scared off. Ease them into it. Linux is actually a lot easier to understand than Windows. I know some people are going to catch me on that right now, but what I mean by that is, pretend you know nothing about computers. I want you to think about what it takes to administrate a Windows system. I'm not even talking about at an enterprise level. I'm talking about it as an everyday user, day-to-day kind of thing you got to do. All the hoops you got to jump through. Oh, you want to do a little tweak? There's a little registry editor. Hop in the setting over here. You know, modify this, do that, blah, blah, blah. In Linux, you can do most of the stuff with a text editor. No joke. You just got to do a little bit of know-how, talk around to things, maybe, you know, talk to ChatGPT a little bit. You know, you can figure your way around things. Most people are so afraid of touching the terminal, very daunting to type out commands. And see, here's the thing that, you know, blows my mind. My generation and older, I'm a millennial. We needed to type on the terminal to do a lot of things. We had to type on a terminal to open Windows. You had to boot DOS and then boot Windows. And the command line is actually a lot easier than the GUI once you start mind mapping how your system's laid out.